This is one of the reasons why I actually think you were way too biased when you kept dismissing, like, why would TSM want Meteos and Dardoch? What, two people who aren't pussies and actually can play their position in the jungle without being told what to do exclusively? Yeah, I can't imagine why they'd want them, Loco. Maybe they should try their 8th fucking jungler who's a little cock bitch and is going to go, yeah, whatever you say, Bjornsson, sir. Yes, sir, yes, sir. Right, this is going to be episode 71 of Less Than Loco. Just a 2-man episode, which means Loco's Rolodex is empty. He's got no more friends in NA. Everyone's abandoned him. All the teams have told him to fuck off. You know, he's run through all the girls he knows. At this point, he's literally down to his last fucking dime, taking that one last coffee in a late night diner, just hoping he meets that person that he used to know who'll restart his whole Hollywood dream. Is that right, Loco? Is that what you're up to now, mate, in LA?
Yeah, well, I actually signed up for an improv class because I want to get into acting, but people told me doing improv will make me a better broadcaster. So I'm like, okay, I guess I have to learn improv.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, mate. I can tell you, I know exactly when the people in the LCS broadcast studios, etc., started to do those sorts of ideas, and they did improve a lot. Mm-hmm. Like before that, as you'd expect, they were all just awkward nerds. You know, maybe some of them within the nerd world had a little bit of charisma, but the problem is that doesn't translate on camera as much. So I think that sort of stuff is good because you have to realize, obviously, like half the humor of talk shows is all made up on the fly, isn't it? So some of it is just like knowing which joke to go with, which one to change up on. Mm-hmm. So I think that's not a bad idea. It's probably a good career move.
Mm. Okay, honestly, if you have to rank broadcasters, if you work for LCS, would you be the best broadcaster for LCS?
I'd be the best at what I do, put it that way. Like, no one's better at what I do in my particular way. I don't know overall, because, I mean, when we say best, like, are we meaning just in my opinion only, or would I be the most popular?
The most popular, most entertaining, like most...
I don't think I'd ever be the most popular. I mean, for a start off, if you say things that upset people, I think it's tough to be the most popular, you know? I think most popular, the obvious one to me, I think if I had to pick who I think the most popular broadcasters in the league, now I'd probably say Papa Smithy. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's exactly because he is very, very shrewd about how to even say things that people would disagree with. Mm. Like, as I've said many times before, he can actually say opinions which are just as wild as anything LS says, but the way that he will say it and that he will phrase it, and like he'll put like disclaimers in at the beginning also, and in doing so, like, I think that's how he's the most popular, because as a result, most people, I think, probably like him generally.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's also one thing that I started to do that's been helping me with broadcasts that I think a lot of Twitch streamers should do. I turned off viewer count, so I can never see my own viewer count. I know on the screen right now it has the viewer count in the corner, but I have it covered up with my notes. So yeah, like I've been watching a lot of videos on how to be a better streamer, and that was like a frequent advice that people were saying, like turn off your viewer count. Like you should be putting the same show on for 5 people as for like 1,000 people.
Sure. I would also say, by the way, as a random aside, like, I know if you're actually streaming directly, like your own gameplay, obviously it's valuable to be able to know what people are saying in the chat and to be able to, you know, take questions and stuff. But I actually personally would say, as a general rule, I mean, you're not going to do this, so I'll just waste my time saying it anyway. But I would say don't read Twitch chat while you do a live show. Like, personally, I never read Twitch chat for any of the shows I do because, like, why would I want that to throw me off? Like, what if people start saying something stupid when I'm making a point or just saying I'm wrong? Like, the amount of times, I told you, the few times I've ever loaded your Twitch chat up, it was always just, like, hardcore fucking subs of your channel, just literally, like, lying about stuff I'd said, like, he's wrong, actually, they came second. It's like they weren't even right about like the facts they're referencing. So, I mean, to be fair, they're obviously, the decision making they have is they thought subscribing to you was a good idea. So I've already, you know, like I'm already willing to accept that they're not the most, you know, reasonable people, but it's not a great look, put it that way. It's not a great look.
Okay.
Thing is though, in general, like I noticed when you went on that show that Travis does, you actually tried to like push Mark Z. I only saw like part of it, but the part that I saw was where you were trying to sort of push back on him about the idea of like whether they're trying to be a bit vanilla on the desk and stuff. The problem you have, Loco, is you let him bullshit you, which is all he said was, no, Loco, they've never told us to be more vanilla. It's like, yeah, well, obviously, like, what do you think they do, Mark Z? What, they walk in and they go, announcement, everyone, hear ye, hear ye. We are cocked little bitches who cannot say anything that's interesting. You will follow suit. You will have vanilla ideas. You will not have a personality. You will be assimilated. No, of course not. Like, that would never be the way it would be done anyway. It would be done through, like, euphemisms. Like, guys, we want you to be a bit more, like, would be a little bit more synergy between the desks, not as much division, Can you guys kind of like align some of your perspective? Like, first of all, we all know the way corporate culture works. And then secondly, like, you just wouldn't do it in a blatant fashion anyway, because the problem with that logic is, right, obviously Riot doesn't think their broadcast's vanilla. They just think it's what they want. They probably describe it as, that's why I say euphemism, professional, family friendly, fun for all, fun for everyone, not too mean. They probably use terms like this. But if you look at it, I'm sure they have toned some aspects of it down, especially if you contrast the LEC broadcast with LCS, obviously. Because you have to realize, I always tell people this, there's very few people in the world think they're the bad guy. Like in all these scenarios, Riot thinks they're the good guy. So if they think that they have to make it vanilla, they have reasons why they think that, Local. Like, either they want to control the broadcast, maybe they even think it'd be more popular. Obviously, I had a discussion about that with Veteran on a show where we had H2K Rich call in, and actually Veteran, believe it or not, argued against him. He thinks having kind of like a more vanilla stream is more popular than if like me, you, Richard Lewis, all these people were able to do like a crazy stream. He thinks that wouldn't be as popular, actually. I think it'd be too niche. So I think on that one, like, a lot of the broadcasters, they're a bit delusional, mate.
Wait, what's also, in like professional wrestling, there's heels, but there's also like good guys. What are the good guys called?
They're called faces usually, and then the ultimate face is called the baby face, like Hulk Hogan or something like that when they were at their prime.
But you have like faces and heels. Like if you have,
I think you need a mix of the two.
You can't have me, you, Richard Lewis, and LS on the show, but you probably want like one or two of us and like one or two vanillas.
Exactly. That's the reason why, for me, I always thought Monty's position was perfect in League, because since he was like the ultimate heel in terms of, he also obviously was like always siding against the fans' favorites anyway, because he was never bigging up the Western regions much. He basically perfectly played that role, and in doing it at such an extreme level, no one else had to do it. Like, other people could do a little bit of it, but it kind of balanced it out perfectly for my money. Whereas the problem they have now is, not only do they not have anyone who goes hard like that, but I actually, I'd actually even agree, because I actually think that's the problem both broadcasts have. I think on LEC, they've almost gone too far, and everyone tries to meme and make the burns on the team stuff. So I actually think on the LEC broadcast, they probably lack someone to just be the more buttoned up character,
They have
Because the key for me, in his case, mate, I guarantee. Are you ready for a prediction?
Sure.
If he sticks around for more than 1 year, next year he'll be doing all those memes as well. It's just that at the moment, because he's the new caster, I think he has to play it a bit safer, and can't be as edgy. So I think he's just like taking it at the moment, like he's the butt of the jokes, but he'll be kicking back himself next year. So the problem I think they have there is that you want, like you say, you want to blend of the two, don't you? Whereas I think at the moment, LEC is everyone trying to crack jokes, and LCS is everyone trying to be like, welcome to the Gillette halftime show here. Great game from the Tennessee Titans. Like, that sort of bullshit, Whereas I don't want either of those. I want like a nice mix of the two.
Oh my god, they announced Scara for the desks this weekend. I don't think it's like even private. Like, I talked about it on my stream. Like, I've been wanting to be on Riot Analyst Desk for such a long time. And it's depressing. It's depressing. I feel like Riot doesn't like me, Thorin.
Wait a minute. Does Scara even watch LCS anymore?
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
He doesn't do that podcast anymore, does he?
I'm sure he watches, and he probably watched to go on this week.
Because here's the thing, I don't know how much he's watched over the last few years, and obviously he used to do the show with Cutie Pie and stuff, where they seemed like they, to some degree, watched, etc. But the bigger issue I'd have there is, obviously an ex-pro like him can break the game down, like they can tell you what the champions are doing, etc. But I don't know how much he's actually been following the last year or so, because in my opinion, to be an actual like analyst, you have to be really on top of the whole scene, know all the results and who played who and all the storylines. So I mean, I get why they pull him out as obviously a legendary pro in terms of like popularity and stuff, but it seems like a bit of a weird reach. I think they do just hate you then, mate, because if they want to hire him, it's like, at this point in time, what can you do, right?
It's probably, what is it? The travel's too long for, them to get me. Like, I live way too far away from the studio, and they don't want to fly me out.
A whole 40 minutes or something.
I really think it's the travel. If not, if I lived closer to the studio, I'm pretty sure they would have brought me along.
Yeah, I see what you mean, because the problem is if you were to book a flight, you don't just come with carry-on, you always have baggage with you. And that's the problem you've always had in your career, right, Loco? That's what they meant when they kept saying that it was your baggage that was holding them back from here. Yes, you've nailed it. Well done. Don't anyone tell him, by the way. Don't hurt his feelings. Let him believe that he really did, the goldfish went to heaven or something. Or whatever they used to tell people when they were a kid. Some bullshit like that, right?
Maybe it's because I'm friends with you and Monty. I don't know.
Listen, mate, if I had to choose which group to be in, I think I'd choose that one. It's like there's a great quote where someone once said, like, if rock and roll is the devil's music, well, then hell has all the best tunes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'd rather be fucking partying down there, mate, than living in heaven, like, la, 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 la. Fuck that shit.
I just feel like Itachi, where what if I'm looking at the Leaf Village and like I'm making sacrifice and I'm giving back to League of Legends and like dedicating my life to this, and like the Leaf Village doesn't love me back, well, and all I'm doing is trying to protect the Leaf and serve the Leaf.
Yeah, but that's your problem, isn't it? You want the validation of the Leaf Village, whereas I'm on the outside of the Leaf Village. Like, listen, I'll fucking burn your village to the ground. You ever fuck with me, boys? Like, just know your role, stay in your place, and you just be glad I only visit the Leaf Village occasionally. Because I'll run game in the Leaf Village, motherfucker. I'd take over and I'd make it some fucking feudal system. I'd be the chief Hokage of fucking LCS broadcast Leaf Village. Exactly.
Okay. Right.
Anyway, let's talk a bit about the LCS, shall we? So we actually did obviously have LCS games because that was what was played last week, even though there was the whole Asian Rift Rivals thing going on, which I've noticed, by the way, it does feel like not only do Westerners not really care that much about their own Rift Rivals, dude, it seems like Westerners don't care at all about the other one. And in theory, the other one is the one that on paper you'd think would be amazing, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
China versus Korea. But I don't get as hyped by that one, bizarrely, I've noticed.
The games were actually really good. I ended up watching it. Like
some good ones.
Yeah. All the final games I thought were really good. All the Chinese and Korean teams, it seems like they leveled up. I kind of fell into this like misbelief or misunderstanding that the West has caught up a lot to the East just due to like G2 winning MSI and almost exclusively watching only LEC and LCS games. So when I watched the Asian Rift Rivals, it was kind of a reality check. I'm like, holy fuck, Asian teams are still ahead. Like generally,
they still have more top teams than we do, mate, for sure.
I think maybe there is a world where G2 is the best team in the world, but if you do top 10 best Asian teams versus top 10 best Western teams, the top 10 best Asian teams would smash.
Oh, I think they would definitely. I think actually that's even the one factor that saved the Asian Rift Rivals is that obviously Korea is super motivated this time to try and win because of all the shit that went down last year and all these international competitions they've lost. And actually, I guess that's the one aspect that works for them, right, is they still have the national pride aspect going, whereas, like, let's be real, like, Europeans don't really care about the concept of Europe. It's not even a real thing, is it? Like, they care about their country. Like, it's not like, people only do that for banter in the other one. Anyway, in the LCS, let's start with the spicy topic, right? Because you know what, Loco? This comment I'm about to say doesn't even seem possible. So I'm going to make two statements right now that if you were a fan who watched League of Legends at the beginning of Spring Split, you might just think, what happened? Is this a simulation? Two comments for you. One, CLG is better than TSM right now.
Ugh.
Two, we now have to have a real discussion, Loco, a real discussion about whether CLG can win LCS. Like, if you look at the way they've been playing, that's not a ridiculous discussion.
Give me 1 sec. Let me go turn off my fan. I'll be right back.
He's got one fan in his room. More than on this show, to be fair. There we go.
CLG winning LCS. CLG winning LCS. Let's start with the CLG TSM one before we go to the CLG LCS one, no?
Go on then.
Okay.
You disagree?
CLG TSM. Oh my god. As of right now, yes, CLG looks better than TSM, but I think...
What do you mean looks? What do you mean looks? They are better than TSM.
Okay,
what do you mean?
As of right now, CLG is better than TSM.
I think it's fair, right?
Yeah. But CLG is firing on all cylinders, and I think TSM from finals is better than CLG as of now. So if TSM can get to that form again...
I don't know if you're aware of this, but TSM from finals doesn't exist anymore unless you've successfully mounted a campaign with Acadian's picture from the finals on a fucking milk carton, because that guy hasn't been seen for a long time now. Like, he is basically just like, as far as I can tell, they only even put him in the game now as a joke. They're just like, Greg, you can take the game off. We're just going to lose one with Acadian for a while. Oh, welcome back, Greg. Come on back in. It's like, I don't know why they're still doing that rotation. It's a fucking nightmare.
And they stopped this week. They stopped doing the rotation, and it's been Acadian both games.
Exactly, which doesn't make any sense, because if you've actually looked at the games, listen, I actually, in theory, still think Acadian is the better fit, but in the actual games, I thought Greg played better than he did in most of the games they played. Dude, didn't make them a better team, but if you had to pick between the two, I'd probably go with Greg, to be fair.
For me, I don't even know anymore. Like, I really don't even know which one's better. Like, I thought Greg was better. I thought Greg looked better. And then some of the Rift Rival games made me yikes at Greg. and then now they're playing
Neither
Acadian
of them are
twice.
that good, mate. I did tell you from the beginning, like it was just like a pointless choice anyway. Neither's that good. Like put it this way, unless they really level up, TSM has to get another jungler, surely. Like,
Oh my
this
God.
isn't a good look. Because here's the difference, Loco. One of the reasons why I would actually confidently say at the moment CLG is better than TSM is because CLG's jungle situation is fucking banging right now. It
Yeah.
looks really good. So as a result, the whole team's activated. Whereas in TSM, half the problem they have is still that if your jungle situation's up in the air, you never know what you're going to get out of the other players because, someone's impact on the game can't spread across the whole map.
How long has it been since they kicked Spenskaren? It's been what, 2 years? 3 years?
Yeah, but like about just over a year and a half, obviously. So let's say not that far from 2 years.
Yeah.
A few months from 2 years, right?
About 2 years. Wait, we had.
And by the way, I tell you what, when you look back now, mate, was that the wrong mistake to make?
Yeah.
This guy's a killer in C9. This is the player he should have been all along.
I think Spenskaren's the best jungle TSM has had. Like, I think he is the best jungle TSM has had. Like, including like Odd One, Amazing, Centauran. Yeah, he's probably the best jungle TSM has had. And after Spenskaren, I don't think TSM has been able to find a good jungler or a jungler that fits. And yeah, we're not going to find one randomly in middle of summer. So it's going to be 2 full years of not having a jungler like TSM is confident with.
Here's the thing. I know people hate that narrative. That's like Bjergsen is the one who is crippling the junglers and making them turn into ward bots. Because again, people go with that lame approach, like the Mark Z one of like, well, he didn't literally sit down and hand them a signed affidavit saying never come out into my lane ever again. It's like, yeah, obviously we know that, we're talking about like, how does he encourage his jungler? How does he tell his jungler what mistakes he's doing? What does he incentivize the jungler to do? Because I have to say, if you look at it now, Svenskeren in Cloud9 and Svenskeren in TSM, sure, everyone does forget there were some periods in TSM he was doing pretty well. He wasn't like feeding all the time. That was mainly just worlds, etc. But like, it's night and day how good he is in Cloud9, and that has to be due to the teammates and the coaching staff. Come on, like it's not like he just woke up one day and was way better. Because I feel like now, if he could go back as the same C9 Svenskeren and they didn't fuck with him at TSM, he'd be an amazing jungler for that team. Problem is, I do personally think the whole connection with him and Bjergsen, his ex-teammates, his Danish people, if Bjergsen has any sort of negative effect, it's going to be even more amplified with someone like him.
I mean, he says so before that it's much easier to perform in C9's environment than it is in TSM's environment, so that's not even speculation, that's just truth of the situation. But I also do think if he did come back, like, Bjerg would definitely learn, like, Parth would definitely learn, and I think they would definitely play around him more, like, and provide a better environment, but I'm not sure if TSM.
I'd never go back ever if I were him, though. Fuck that. Fuck going back to the guys who's reamed you up for 2 years, let you be the scapegoat, and then you're going to go back when they're struggling. I don't think so, somehow. The other part is this as well. It's like, let me think how you phrase this. This is one of the reasons why I actually think you were way too biased when you kept dismissing, like, why would TSM want Meteos and Dardoch? What, 2 people who aren't pussies and actually can play their position in the jungle without being told what to do exclusively? Yeah, I can't imagine why they want them, Loco. Maybe they should try their 8th fucking jungler who's a little cock bitch and is going to go, yeah, whatever you say, Bjergsen, sir. Yes, sir, yes, sir.
I just still don't think those two.
Even when they've got you at the firing range right before they cut you from TSM. Listen, we're going to give you one chance. Just tell us who it was who told you to play like a ward bot. They just nervously looking over at Bjergsen. I'll go down with the ship. I love you, Bjergsen. Like, come on, man. Meteos would be the ideal jungler for Bjergsen.
No, oh my God.
You know what, Bjergsen? You're a mid laner, son. You play mid lane. I'll worry about the jungle. And that would be the start of a beautiful friendship. Exactly. I think so, mate.
No.
All I'm going to say, Loco, is your last 4 picks on TSM jungles have all been fucking garbage, mate. So maybe you should stop picking TSM jungle.
When did I pick TSM jungle?
You thought Mike Young was going to make it, admit it.
Everyone thought Mike Young was going to make it.
Yeah, it only turned out that he literally couldn't even play jungle, but never mind that one. You guys can have that one. Then in came your boy Greg. Greg can't even stay healthy to be a jungler, never mind that. So then when he gets his chances, we've seen how that's gone. How many more chances does he want? Tell you what, I can read you, Loco. You still want Greg to have a chance now, don't you? If you had the option to keep Greg and try for next
No, I just want them to pick a jungler. I just want them to pick a jungler and stick with it for the rest of summer. I really don't care. They can flip a coin for all I give a fuck about. Like, flip a coin, heads Acadian, tails Greg, that person plays for the rest of summer. Like, that's what I want. I just want one jungler.
It's because I think part of the problem is one area where I don't blame Westerners for this not working is I don't think personally that the sub approach works very well in the West, especially not for jungle. Like, I only think that works in Korea because the Korean junglers go so much about by what the coach says, and they listen to the game plan from him, and it looks to me like they even pick the champion based on what the coach says. So I just think as a Westerner, you're not going to be able to just manage like one game. Like, think about how amazing those Korean subs are who'll just sit on the bench the whole time. They still play the scrims and they're ready when they're called upon. Like, you're not going to get Westerners who are good who are going to be doing that. Like, it's just, to me, I kind of agree with you. I think it just ruins both players. Like, I'd rather just one or the other played. Like, even if in this case it was Greg who just played the whole split, cool. At least after that, we'd know if we want to keep him or not. You know, it would solve a problem.
You know, one other thing about TSM that I really didn't realize until pretty recently. So my career has been, I used to be a pro in Korea, and then I played briefly in NA, and then I went back to Korea, and then I coached TSM. So it's been almost exclusively Korea and TSM for, I would say, like the early half of my career. And like working 24/7 and just being on like a workaholic culture was like the norm to me. And when I first joined, Andy really wanted results. And to get results with like the team we had, like, I mean, you'll meme us like forever for like, oh, Bjergsen carried you, oh, Wild Turtle Crits carried you to that finals and winning. But like, we worked like so fucking hard. Like, we were the first team to start doing triple block. We were the first team to not taking breaks on Monday. And I was recently having a chat with Amazing during Rift Rivals, and Dom also mentioned this to me. Dom's like, you know, that third block and like the workaholic TSM culture, like, you started it and you guys started it. I was like, wait, what do you mean? And then he's like, back in 2014 when you came in, like, you guys stopped doing off days on Monday, you guys started doing triple blocks, and then Steve said we should do that too, and then we started doing it. So I was like, maybe so. But like, that TSM workaholic culture, now that I work with few other teams, is almost exclusive to TSM in North America. Like, some other teams do go that distance, but when I think TSM, one thing that's very unique about them and that still stands out to me is like how hard they work. And I think just the hours are way too fucking insane, and I think it's actually getting to like a negative point now.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, I've said this the whole time because I've come from, like, I've seen what StarCraft was like in Korea. I've even been to those team houses and seen the people's lives. And like, I don't think there's even a debate, Loco. That lifestyle burns everyone out. Because even the greatest players of all time, if you ever look in StarCraft, the greatest players typically were only on the absolute top level for like a year, maybe 2 years. Like, even people like Nada, so like the absolute best players to ever play Brood War, they were maybe on top for like 2 or 3 years, you know, and then they drop off and be just a top 10 player, top 20 player. Like, so to me, that lifestyle, you cannot maintain it. No one can. Like, the problem with it is, in the short term, it will make you your absolute best you can be. It's just, it will also kill your like career lifespan in that sense, you know. So to me, it's more about like, you've got to find clever ways to get people to still be working without overworking themselves. So, for example, if I was a coach in LCS, I mean, this is literally what I told the Fnatic guys when they were asking me to work with them. I said what we would do is our scrims would be between 4 and 6 hours, and then we'd have a couple of hours just pure theory. And it would be a mixture of going over the scrims or working on one concept that we still haven't got down, and we would demo review. You know, it's like I would try and make up some of the hours with like, more chill version though, you know, like I wouldn't have it all like super hardcore. Like, some of it would be like, it build you into what you're doing. Because I do think, like, unfortunately, I can't really see any way to fix like the gap in that sense, because the Asians are going to keep practicing all the time. Like, Koreans are never going to stop that approach. It's just a national identity, isn't it? So like, the only real way, in my opinion, you can fix it in the West is you've got to actually have a smarter approach than they do. And let's be real, it's not like Korean team houses have maxed out all those things like sports psychology, reviews and stuff. They're quite limited on some of that stuff still.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, just it's exclusive to TSM still in the terms of hours they work. Like, TL and C9 are more chill, and yeah, I wonder if it's ever going to change for TSM, because like the main, like, I would say like Andy isn't even the head figure anymore, but when I think like the bigger voices and like the leadership on TSM, it's like Andy, Bjerg, Parth, and they're all three are like extremely hardworking and extreme grinders. So when they hold leadership like when they're still the leadership in TSM, I think TSM will always be extremely hardworking, and I'm not sure how they ever step back from that.
The problem is, mate, if you want to tie this to right now, they have got so many problems in TSM at the moment. Oh, mate, put it this way, if I asked you what's even going right in TSM right now, who knows, right? Like, you look at their recent track form, they've lost a lot of games. That game they won against GGS, I wouldn't be taking any pride in that game, mate. They could absolutely have lost that one as well. Like, they had some moments that were shaky in that. Like, I think as a team, the big problem they have is, yeah, the team that finished spring looked really good. That team doesn't look like it's here at all. And in fact, the worst thing about the whole jungle problem is it's had its knock-on effect. Like, Broken Blade looks way worse. Sven, I don't think's ever gotten back to the form he's in at the end of the split. I think their team's pretty shaky right now. I could see a lot of teams overtaking them.
If you go a little bit more in depth to their games this week, they ran Yasuo Gragas in bot lane, and when they were trying to execute the dive bottom on CLG, like, something bugged out with Smoothie's E-Flash on Gragas, where normally when you E-Flash on Gragas, you'll knock up the other person, but he did it when the Sivir or Stixxay was right between a turret and a wall, so it didn't knock up Gragas, and the dive failed, and after that, like, the game looked miserable. So I'm not sure like how to take in the CLG loss. I'm not saying TSM doesn't have problems, but that dive was really unfortunate, and that was definitely TSM trying something new, trying something that's not really their playstyle, like an execution heavy, like really aggressive early game comp.
So where does that leave them then? Here's the thing, Loco. If you really believe they're going to come back and be good again, you should predict it now when they haven't done it yet, so it'll look good.
I mean, I really believe they will be good, and I just believe in TSM, the brand. I believe in Tony. I believe in Bjerg. I believe in Parth. I believe in Andy. Like, I know, like, these are not people that are okay with the team not being the best team in America or best team in NA, and not okay with them not being a top team in NA. So they're gonna put in the extra work. So I mean, yeah, I think they'll be good. I think they'll definitely make playoffs. I think they'll definitely make semis, and I mean, I had them winning the split, so I'll still stick by that. It's just, right now, there's the whole jungle problem. Right now, there's the whole identity problem. And there's also a bot lane problem. Both Zben and Smoothie, like, something like doesn't click. So there is a lot of problems. I'm not going to change.
That's the biggest killer. Because here's the thing, right? I could believe if he fixed the jungle situation, it'll help Broken Blade. Because obviously he was getting loads of resources in the spring. The problem I have is the bot lane entirely. Because, like, those two guys' names are very well-respected names from their respective regions. You know, they're considered top players. They both played with, I mean, in a bunch of different teams. The problem is, like, together, I don't know if they've ever had a really great synergy as a bot lane. Like, those names on paper should be one of the best, absolute best bot lanes. You know, they should be contending with Double Lift and Core JJ. Like, it should be right up there. But if you look at them right now, like, they're all right individually.
Everything's just so
neither of them
fucking...
set the world alight.
Everything's just so fucking frustrating. Like, Mitty and Zven splitting up. Like, I feel like when people had to take a bet on who'd be better without one another, I think majority of
everyone would say Zven, mate.
Yeah, everyone would say Zven. And that hasn't been the case. It's been Mitty that's been better. So, like, what the fuck? Like, oh my god. It's just frustrating. Like, it's just frustrating being a TSM fan.
I hope you stay frustrated for a long time. Enjoy the suffering. Thing is, though, to be fair, like, just as a side note, I just think it's cool that CLG fans actually have something to cheer for now. Like, they actually have a legit team to watch.
And they do. And how do you feel about, how much credit do you think Weldon deserves?
I know I already told you, if they'd have made the playoffs in the spring, I would have given him quite a lot of credit. Like, if you look at the team he had to work with, the resources, like, we know he's not someone who had all the money in the world to just buy whoever he wanted. He probably had to, as he saw, pick people who were down on their luck or newer players, take a gamble. So I think if you consider that, I assume he must have had something to say about the Ruin move, bringing him in. And that wasn't like an easy move to make, by the way. That could have fucked up completely and been terrible. Just bringing a Korean top laner who tries to hard carry. I could see that going really badly, but it's been fine so far. So I would give him a decent amount of credit. Like, put it this way, of all the teams in the league, there are some teams I have no idea what the coach does. Like, I have no clue what, for example, like the FlyQuest coach does or the Echo Fox coach. Maybe something, maybe nothing. I can't tell. I would guess in CLG, like, it's one of the teams that the coach has more of an impact. Seems like it is. Seems like also they've actually picked players who were very coachable, if I had to guess. People who are very open to listening to what the coach doesn't seem they have the big egos, really.
Yeah, I think Weldon deserves a lot of credit because this is not a team you look at it on paper and you're like, man, this is going to be a great team, or like, man,
but this way, if they keep up this form, he'll definitely win the coach of the split with the way the narrative always works. Of course, it wouldn't even be that unfair. I don't think. If they'd be reasonable,
if they break top 3, yeah, for sure, Weldon wins it. I was right about Wiggly. Wiggly looks so good with that Darshan. What?
The fuck? So your plan was just not to talk about him for like the 10 weeks where he didn't look good.
No, I admitted
like,
he looked bad.
See,
Like,
I always told you. It's like, you don't even know the concept of ride or die. Ride or die is what I did last episode, where I still stand up for forgiving and frogging now, even though on paper it's easy for any idiot to go, well, how could they be the best?
that's you being stubborn. That's because you...
That's me actually holding what I really think, whether or not right now evidence proves it or not. Because that way, when it is actually shown to be correct, my reasons will still make sense. You were just out like a motherfucker on Wiggly.
I was not out. I said, what is it? He doesn't look great, but what is it? I mean, I still thought he'd be good, and I was still confused why he wasn't doing good, and I was trying to figure it out. And then eventually the conclusion we came to was Darshan, and that's the same conclusion that CLG came to. And without Darshan, Wiggly just looks so much more activated, and he seems like he has his own voice. He makes aggressive plays. He picks up champions that he wants to play, and he takes risks while he's playing too. Like, all great aspects of jungler that's really hard to achieve as like a rookie coming into a team with a lot of veterans and a team with expectations.
Sure. Oh, I'd agree. I think he's been very good this split. The problem is, as I alluded to with those names we talked about before, Mike Young, Arcadian, Greg, like, I need more than one good split. Like, I need a whole split, and then I need like something beyond that, some playoffs, hopefully. I would hope. Another thing I think you have to test, if you notice the track record of those people, is let's see when they play with different personalities. Like, if they get in a big ego top laner, or a guy who comes in their team who's more argumentative, because obviously, like, I mean, it kind of ties into the earlier conversation about TSM. I do think jungle, unfortunately, is the role that it's the easiest to sort of get intimidated by your teammates or get forced into doing what you don't want to do, because it's so hard to tell what you do anyway in the game. So to be a good teammate, you feel like you have to service all these people, you know. Whereas, like, I do think as a jungler, if you look at the best junglers, I think you've got to have a little bit of like backbone. Like, you can to some degree compromise and do what people want, but you also have to have a degree to which is like, no, this is my style of play. This is what I'm the best at. Like, let me do what I want to do. Yeah, I'll bring this concept in, but like, I can't completely change my whole style. Because if you do that, I think you just kill your whole career, as you've seen with some of those names I mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, as a jungle, it's very easy to get bossed around, and it's very easy to get forced into a service role. And yeah, if you don't have your own voice, that's what's going to happen. You're going to be a service jungler for other people. You're basically going to be a little bitch.
Exactly. You just end up saying, like, do you want fries with that, Mr. Bjergsen? A hot apple pie? Dollar today on the menu, sir. But the difference is, though, actually, that's where I actually think it could be very good for Wiggly's career that he has Weldon as his coach now. Because in theory, one of the things that Weldon should automatically be good at is resolving conflicts between teammates, like facilitating, you know, productive discussions is probably the euphemism that you'd use if you were in a fucking riot meeting and you were trying to talk about two people have problems, you know. Like, I actually feel like that's a good coaching setup to have. And also, to be fair, if this guy plays his cards right, look at who they have in the team at the moment. Like, I doubt Power of Evil is going to play for CLG for 4 years. Ruins looks to me like a temporary pickup. The bot lane's fine. Wiggly could literally be the star of CLG for years from now, and he could be the franchise player as long as they can keep him.
Yeah, along with Bio, Stickfay, I think that's their bet. 3 of them, what if it become long-term players for them, become great players for them. It's not a bad bet. And it
also just shows, to be fair, how it doesn't take much changing in a team to make the whole team change. Because to me, the key changes are always ones where it's like a knock-on effect. So Jungler's a good example, because it can make everyone in the team better.
It took just one player for CLG to be out of playoffs to be a contender team. Just one change. And they didn't realize, by the way, top-tier import.
That does make me think, if they had have just made the big buy and gotten Flame when it was available, dude, they would have definitely been in the playoffs last split. Who knows what beyond that? Like, they might even have been a semi-final team. I think they could have probably done it.
Who knows?
Right, here's the question. Where's Team Liquid at, homie?
Where's TL at? Oh, this one's very easy. This one's actually so fucking easy. TL is the best team in LCS by far. Head and shoulders above everyone else. But they are not the best looking team nor the best on form team in LCS. I'm never like, I kept doing this thing where TL, like, I kept underrating TL due to watching their performance, and then I saw them playing in Rift Rivals, and I saw what TL looks like when they're actually fucking playing and when they actually care versus like watching them playing versus 100 Thieves and kind of the mistakes that, dude, Double like just did not give a fuck. He's playing Sona lane versus Xayah Rakan, and level 1 he's walking up and getting knocked up by Rakan and burning his flash. Like, Double would never fucking do that in an international competition. It just shows how disrespectful he was towards 100 Thieves and how little he cared. Like, Doublelift fans, like, fucking talk to me. Like, would Doublelift ever walk up versus a Zyra Khan as a Sona and get his flash burn?
If before the game, the other AD carry had called him out on Twitter and said, I'm going to smash you in lane this game, he would never do that, 100%. Like, I agree with you, mate. I have to say, sadly, and this is not what you want to hear if you're an LCS fan, unlike when we talk about G2, we're always like, it's amazing how, you know, they're still so like motivated to play and they all love playing the game and they love working hard. Like, the problem TL has is the opposite. They have all these veterans who've been around so long, they've all had success at this point in their careers. I do feel as though it's not that they don't try, it's just that they like aren't as focused when they play in LCS. Not least because think about the teams they're playing. If they're going to play like 100 Thieves and then Echo Fox and then fucking Optic and then like FlyQuest, in their brains, well, even if we lose one of these, probably going to win the other three, right? It's probably still good. Like, we are still the best team. We're probably even going to be able to come back in some of these games if we're down. Like, I kind of agree. I feel like when they're in LCS, they're only at like 80% power level, and then every time they've gone international, they've gone to the max, pretty much routinely.
I know TL lost to C9, and C9 isn't like a pushover, but I really don't think that makes C9 better than TL. Like, if you have to ask me right now, best of 5, like, both teams, like, their owners' lives are on the line, like, I'll take TL over C9 any fucking day. Like, TL is the best team in LCS. It's just, if you watch enough of TL in international versus them playing in LCS, like, you know, like, sometimes they just don't care. Like, they legitimately don't care. They're bored in NA.
They also, in theory, have the most fucking playoff-proof team I've ever seen in terms of, like, there's no reason anyone in their team should ever collapse in the playoffs. Like, they've all just got so much experience. Like, every other team has at least one factor. Like, you know, when we were going into the spring, I said, for all we know, maybe fucking Broken Blade has a bad playoffs. It's his first ever performance. Could have happened. Similarly, if CLG goes now, we have no idea how Wiggly will do. We have no idea how Ruin will do. But you look at the Team Liquid players, the experience is just bonkers in that team. And what I love about their team is everyone's either played as like a primary carry or a supportive element through their whole career. So they even have like the great overlap. Like, they don't have someone who's stuck in a role he doesn't want to do or playing in a way he doesn't want to. They all seem to want to play that style. So here's the thing. I'll definitely agree with you that, like, in a way, you should underrate CL when we're only talking about the regular split, because what they do in these matches is who they are now. And I guarantee you, they'll probably lose a bunch more games for the end of the split. I would guess like at least 3 or 4 more. But the difference is, I do feel as though they know all they have to do is maintain a top 2 seed, get to the playoffs, and then it'll kick in the gear in the playoffs, which for normal teams, I would say don't ever have that mentality, because for all you know, you go to flip the switch and it doesn't work. But wait a minute, I thought we could do this. The difference is, like I said, with the amount of experience in this team, with how much they've already played together, with all the success they've had, even when they fuck around, they still win 3/4 of their games. Like, I think this team's going to be fine.
Yeah, I just stopped caring about TL in North America. Like, I remember when I would watch every game, like, really closely, and whenever they would make mistakes, I would think about, holy shit, like, did TL overperform at international? Like, is TL not the best team? Like, when they get to, like, playoffs, like, is TL going to lose? Like, I had that thoughts about TL all throughout spring and a little bit throughout summer, and then just watching Rift Rivals and like how different they were, like before Rift Rivals and during Rift Rivals and after. I'm like, okay, they just don't care. Like, TL, you can't judge them for their North American performance.
Well, you can even throw in, if you remember, they were in interviews when they came back from MSI complaining because they immediately had to go and play LCS like the week after or something, you know. Well, as a result, you know that means they wanted a break. They wanted time off. So if I would guess, like, I don't think they're as extreme as the old Fnatic guys, but it was a famous thing that, like, Xpeke and Soaz used to do in every team they were in the LCS era. Because remember, by the time LCS started, they'd already played a couple of years. They used to literally just chill at the beginning of the split. And then what they would do is, like, crucially, actually, they would almost like let losses motivate them. So when they would get beaten by, you know, the team that's on the rise now, or they would lose to an underdog team, that's when they would start to be like, okay, like, we better start kicking it in the gear now. And then what they would do is, as it was like I can't remember how many weeks there was back then. I would imagine still 9 or 10. Say there was 9 weeks. It was like about week 6, all of a sudden you'd see like playoff Fnatic, and then all of a sudden they'd be off, you know, and they'd still get a top seed. By the time they came in the playoffs, if you were a guy of the fan of the team that had beaten them, you'd be thinking, oh, this is our chance. And it wouldn't be your chance. They'd be just as good as they ever were. They'd win all the best of 5s. They'd go to the final. So I kind of feel like that's where TL's at the moment. So then here's the question, Loco. Because I would agree. If you ask me who looks the best at LCS, I wouldn't pick Team Liquid. The question is it Cloud9?
Oof. They're a great regular season team, and they always have been.
Of course, yeah.
And
I was, but Reaper thinks I was bantering him. I was, but I'm also serious. He is actually like the best LCS coach in the regular sport I think I've ever seen. Look how many times he's had his team poised to be top of the league. It's amazing.
You know what Duke said regarding like the luxury to experiment on stage is not something that a lot of teams have, and he wishes it's something that he had. I think C9 are a team with luxury to experiment on stage, and they do it all the fucking time.
They have too much, Loco. What they have is they have so much luxury that Reaper's out here like fucking Swizz Beats wearing some like ridiculous like new experimental glasses that cost $200,000. Like, yo, dog, you want to see my shit? It's like he's going too far with the experimental nature. He's trying to blend like trap house music with like Irish traditional folk dancing in the same party, and then be like, what, you ain't down with this? Well, let me just mix into this shit then. Choir boys from the Georgian period. It's like, whoa, it's too much experimentalism. Like, try a bit, for fuck's sake. Because that's the thing, he still does it. He still 200 IQ drafts himself half the time. Why? Why does he do it? Dude, of all the teams in LCS, his team, in theory, should have the best, like, overall, like, options to flex, champ pools. How does he 200 IQ himself so many times in draft? I don't get it. He's almost anything.
He likes trying stuff. He likes thinking ahead. He likes thinking forward. He's a very forward thinker in terms of, like, he's not so much about the now. I think that's why, like, sometimes, like, it fails in playoffs, and then I think he thinks about the now when it gets to Worlds a lot. He definitely thought about that last year, and like that's how C9 was able to perform. But in regular season, he's very forward thinking. And also on the other topic of C9, fucking Licorice. Oh my fucking god! I knew he was playing bad, and I knew something looked off, and I just like I really genuinely just feel bad that I was criticizing for him for all of summer and for Rift Rivals, because he just looked like ass, and like this makes so much sense, like hand injury and not being able to play a lot.
And how long was this actually affecting him though? Did they say?
Yeah, he said it's been affecting him for the last few weeks, so I'd imagine all of summer. It's not an injury that happens suddenly, it's an injury that develops.
I mean, that's a fucking bad look as well, because I can tell you, if you go and look at pros who had to actually take time out of the game, not just said, like, you know, I have mild RSI, I'm working on it. People who had to take time out of the game, most of them didn't ever come back as good.
I mean, Mickey X did.
From High, Freeze, a whole bunch of...
I think High...
Yeah, the Mickey X one is a very unique one. Like, did you I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember the reason why... I had him on one of my shows, my European one. Do you know the reason why he got better?
A book.
Basically, he worked on his mental concept. Yeah, like he already obviously was resting it, you know, and trying not to stress as much. But part of it literally was like learning to mentally deal with the pain, and if any of it was psychological, how to sort of like offset it so it didn't affect. Like, it's unusual that's going to work, mate. You can't just give everyone that book and they're not all just going to come back healed, are they?
From what I heard,
there's only one book that can heal a man's spirit and set him on the right path.
Bible,
and that is. No, Weldon's Guide to Psychology are now available for $29.99. But wait, there's more. A free set of steak knives as well. But wait, there's more. A free diary from a Finnish 29-year-old female swimmer who competed in the Olympics under Weldon and got the bronze medal. Like, fuck. Call now for this fast number. Do not be alarmed if you are answered by a singing man. Darshan still needs a job. There we go. Work that in at the end. Just blame him.
But, I mean, I don't think his injury is that bad, because he said he's going to take a break for a week and he's working with a trainer. And when we think High and Freeze, it was from forever ago. And I remember like the Freeze injury, like Freeze said he played through the injury and it caused permanent damage. And High had like lung collapse on top of like wrist pains. Like High was like falling apart. I think like Licorice, like this one's like a very isolated injury, so I don't think it'll be that big of a problem. Also, Licorice is so much younger than both those players when like
the problem is
the injury.
The problem is, though, this isn't the time in the league when you want to have someone drop out.
For sure.
Like, let me see. Who do they play this week? I'll have a look here. They play Echo Fox. Okay, fair enough. Like, bottom team. But then they also play TSM. So, to be fair, that TSM wins one that you probably want in terms of, like, playoff seeding and stuff. So that's a rough one if you have to drop that. Who is their sub-top laner? Is it anyone who's any good?
Kumo.
Oh, I remember. He actually played in the games. Yeah. Oh, sorry, you're right, actually. Yeah, he was all right, actually. He looked decent.
Yeah. Kumo's in a situation where he was in, like, purgatory, because C9 wanted to play Zooks.
Purgatory.
Yeah, purgatory, because they wanted to play Zooks for Academy, because Zooks is the popular Brazilian player, so they want the Brazilian fan base, and for their Academy stream to blow up. And they also have Licorice starting in LCS. So I was wondering where the fuck and like what happened to Kumo for a little bit. So apparently he was scrimming with the LCS team, and now he got to play.
By the way, right, in America, if you add up all the Asian immigrants, from China, Korea,
where's this going?
all this country, right, it can't be that much of the population, can it? It's got to be like a fairly smaller part. Like I know in LA, for example, there's going to be a lot of like there's Koreatown and that sort of thing. I know in SoCal in general, there's a lot of Asian people moved there. But dude, there seems to be a disproportionate amount of Asian LCS like subs and academy players. Like every time I see someone get brought in as a sub, it's just an Asian guy.
Okay, well, holy fuck. I'm not sure if I want to have this talk, but I guess we can have this talk. So why there's a disproportionate amount of Asian people and in gaming compared to other things? Like, I mean, Asians usually, oh my
I mean, in the US especially, I feel like
I'm gonna get fucking killed for this, so I'm just gonna try to use facts.
Okay.
So
just be careful.
Okay.
Just be careful. I'll tell you if you go too far.
Per household, Asians earn the most. Per household, Asians are the highest earning in the American.
In America, yeah.
In American. Yeah. And Asian culture is about working hard, right? So when you think barrier of entry to competitive games, that's why there's a lot more how do I say this without sounding racist? But there's a lot more people of color in console games because the barrier of entry to console is so much more cheaper. So like there's a lot more people of color in fighting games in in Call of Duty because the barrier of entry is so much cheaper. Like to get an Xbox, to get a PS2,
I don't think that's even an unreasonable statement. It's just like an economic reality, right?
Yeah, it's like 500.
You have to have a PC. It might cost it might cost $1,000, right?
To have a PC to play League of Legends and to play this in to play this popular game League of Legends, like you have to spend like up to $1,000 for PC like internet connection. League of Legends, oh my god, I don't know why we came into politics, but League of Legends is more of a privileged game, and that's why there are more Asians and there are more like upper middle class people in it. Like, oh my god, I hope I didn't fucking kill it.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, mate. That was a pretty reasonable topic.
Yeah. Really? Are you trolling me?
Funny thing is, though, I also think, by the way, I can give you an interesting parallel. I actually think the US in video games has exactly the same problem that United Kingdom, my home country, has in sports, which is you have to realize, right, compared to most European countries, the UK has a lot of people. We have like maybe 60 million people who live there. Whereas, if you go to like Sweden, that might be like 7 million people local. There's not many people who live there. So the bizarre thing is, you would think, right, that the UK, especially in the sports it's famous for, football, rugby, they should have one of the best teams, one of the better teams at the very minimum, right? But actually, in most sports now, the UK is not like the absolute best in majority of sports. It's just okay, or like has like one or two good players. And part of the problem is they spread themselves too thin. The UK plays pretty much every sport. Like we have people who play rugby and cricket and snooker and fucking everything, football, all the sports, right? The US in esports has the same problem. If everyone in the US was like in Korea, where they're obsessed with like two games. So in Korea at the moment, it's like League of Legends and Overwatch. They're like the only two games that, people on a pro level are going hardcore at. That means you can have the same amount of people I'm talking about, but you could be amazing at those games because everyone's trying it. Whereas I think the problem in the US is they play every esport. Like they have all of the console ones that you say, all the fighting games. They have FPS games. They have the MOBA games. It's just, I think people are too spread apart. And then the distance is obviously a bigger problem in a massive country like that as well, to be fair. It's like having your own continent, isn't it?
But yeah, a lot of Asian people in gaming. And
I don't know why you're so scared about that. I mean, I know what you mean. Like, if you said something outrageous, it'd be bad. You didn't say anything outrageous there, mate.
Yeah. But it is like a topic, right? The only like a pro of color that we have is Afromu. Outside of Afromu, there's very little like.
There's Darshan, I guess.
Yeah, Afro Darshan. Yeah,
there's very few.
There's very few. Oof. Let's get away from this.
And plus, I actually think, by the way, technically that would class Darshan as Asian anyway, because technically, I mean, I'm assuming his family's from like India or somewhere like that, would look like that. So technically, that wouldn't even be called POC, I don't believe. But whatever. Let's get back into this game and ask a question for you.
Okay.
What do you think of the new GGS bot lane?
Oh man, I think
interesting twist, right? Because I was thinking, dude, this is a team I thought Like, I 100% know this team inside and out. They can't go any higher than this. They can't go any lower than this. They're just set where they are. They're going to have the same problems. They're going to have the same strengths. But this new bot lane changes everything, mate. This is interesting. And who would have ever thought I would say that about Huhi playing in a game at support?
I actually thought the new bot lane gives them another dimension, and it makes them more flexible. Like, they can be a bottom.
Way better in lane to me.
Yeah, they can be a bottom-oriented team. But this bot lane seemed a little bit more resource-heavy. Contracts with ganking bot a lot, and it also changes the core functional playstyle of Golden Guardians, which is backline frog and carry, backline like teamfight carry. So yes, it gives them another dimension, but is this what they really want out of their bot lane when their mid laner is Froggen? That's my question. Like, does this give them additional dimension while removing depth, and while like Froggen's best when he's played towards, Froggen's best when the game drags out and he's in teamfight situations. If this bot lane is going to take away from that, is it an overall upgrade for Golden Guardians? If you can clone the top side of the map for Golden Guardians, right? If you can clone Haunter, Froggen, Contracts, and have them play with Huhi FBI, and then have them also play with Deathly, Ole, like which version gives them the better result in LCS? And I'd probably have to lean towards Deathly Ole. Not because they're better, but they just fit in better with the play.
No, I see what you mean. And also, by the way, if you have Deathly and Ole, you're going to know yourself. Like, right, these are the limitations we have, so these are the strengths we're going to play to. I agree in a sense. Like, in the short term, it could obviously fuck them completely. Like, now, like you've already seen from their coach, dude. I hope we have him on this show again, but their coach, to me, smacks of someone who definitely believes in global meta thinking and just thinks that it's about the champions, not the players, and if you pick this champion, it's good against this one, and has, does that kind of drafting. So the problem is I could totally see something like that. I already saw him draft for Deathly at times in the past when I was like, what is this guy doing? But if you look at the team they have now, I think he'll try that more. So luckily, I think you will find out very quickly if it's going to work or not. Like, if it's going to work, I think it should work quickly. If it doesn't, I kind of agree with you. Like, at least the old team, you knew where you were set on that one. Like, you knew how you could win in that one. So, I don't know. I do think it's a gamble. I think it was worth a shot, though, because the difference is, like I say, they were never going to go much higher with the old five-man lineup. Like, it was just the limitations were too obvious in that sense. And I also think it might have even eventually been a problem, because I think other teams, given enough time, we're going to figure things out. Like, I'm amazed it took them that long to start banning fucking Time Kench, but they eventually started doing it. So I think teams would have started to figure out a little bit more how to limit and neutralize Golden Guardians.
All right. I mean, you also have to give a little. What do you think about Froggen when he's not being played towards? And if this team does turn into a bot lane oriented team, don't you think it takes away from Froggen?
It does a bit. Like, one of the problems, the only thing is, though, he definitely could play. He can be a very self-sufficient mid laner. If you even look at half his picks, he's amazing at avoiding ganks. He definitely, very rarely takes big risks in lane where he can get solo killed. So I definitely think he could be played away from.
But
the bigger question
if they're
for me,
bottom oriented and they want to set up dives on bot lane, and they're expecting Froggen to roam and Froggen to be proactive, don't you think that plays away from?
That's the big question, is whether or not he will do that. That's why it's interesting to me, because to me, criticizing Froggen in the last Golden Guardians lineup or the Echo Fox lineup doesn't make any sense. Like, him doing what he was doing is about your only chance to win the game. The difference is, I would agree with you, if you have this kind of a lineup, there should be some games he isn't at all the focal point. And at that point, I want to see, will he pick differently? Will he play differently and actually play for other lanes? I'm interested to find out, because the point is he hasn't had a reason to the last few years. So it's hard to know whether it's pure stubbornness or whether he didn't have the right teammates. Like I said on that last episode, like, it's people used to criticize Kobe Bryant for being a ball hog, right? Back when he used to have terrible teammates. Well, he once said a comment in an interview, which is like, passing the ball twice as much to a guy who's going to miss the shot doesn't help anyone. Like, in that scenario, I'm probably better off taking the shot. So there's the question. I want to see that. If Froggen himself actually agrees that they're good players, he should sometimes play more in the style of Bjergsen, where he's willing to sometimes give up for the pick or give up the lane. But I don't know. I kind of feel like he won't, but it's an interesting question to find out over the next few weeks, certainly. You think he won't?
I think he hasn't shown it. He played Corki and he was roaming boss side, and while it didn't look great, and he's just not the same player when he's not playing his style. So if he's not playing the same style, then if he's not playing the same style, then it's kind of meh. It's like, that's not what I'm signing up for when I'm watching Froggen. That's not what Golden Guardians signed up for when they signed Froggen. So it's gonna take a little bit more time, and we are gonna have to see. But when you try to practice other things, and when you try to spread it out, and when you become more diluted as a team in your identity, like having adaptability, having flexibility is a strength, but it can also come as a weakness.
I also think you have to look at the league at the moment and say the rise of CLG is exactly why someone like GGS probably should gamble, because they already were going to have a tough time getting past the top three. Like, CLG looks better. I'm not quite sure on Optic yet. I'm a little bit out on that one, but I still think they have potential to be good. Like you see in some of the games, they still pop off. So GGS isn't in a great spot at the moment, mate. They're just all right as a team. They're just all right. Which isn't a problem, to be fair. If you look at the lineup, I told you already, the fact that they were ever 4th place or 5th place last split just showed how bad some of the teams were last split. And there was a lot of fucking bad teams.
What do you think
about...
about...
There aren't really many bad teams in the split now, I don't think.
What do you think about Haunter and Contracts nowadays? They were both part of like extremely successful lineups, and then now without, like, they're just both kind of average. Like, what's your opinion on both?
I still think Haunter's a good player. I will say this split, he does seem to have made a lot more like uncharacteristic mistakes. Like even in the game they won against Echo Fox.
Yeah, he was getting solo killed by Solo. Do
you remember when he got solo killed? Like think about this, right? His team was up something like 3 kills or something, both in bot lane. The game's looking great. He's playing Renekton. Why would you even gamble and let yourself get killed there and be behind in lane on Renekton early in a game your team's winning? Like, that's just an unnecessary gamble, in my opinion. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking.
Yeah, both Haunter and Contracts, like, they were championship players, but they weren't like core, like championship defining.
I'm not a believer in Contracts at all, dude. I'm sorry, I just can't. Like I told you, the one thing I like about him, it's the same thing I like about Acadian, is that they have a little bit of spunk. Like they're willing to go in. The problem is, I think similar to Acadian, he doesn't have a very good like he doesn't have great decision making on when to go in and when to make invades and stuff. And unfortunately, that just means you're going to look like you in some of the time, you know. Even if you're not actually making it, like maybe in your brain there was a good logic to it, but whatever it is, bad comm from a teammate, you just go too early. Like he seems to mistime a lot of that shit. Like would you want Contracts as your jungler?
Would I want Contracts as my jungler? And compared to what?
Like, here's the thing. I will agree. With where GGS are, it's probably a decent gamble to have someone like him. He's still young. He showed some potential in the past, like you're saying. Maybe he can improve or be coached or learn to work with specific teammates better. But from what I've seen just on GGS, including the bad times, he didn't look that great. Like, he looked like he had some potential. But like now that he's got a couple of good players around, I expect that potential to come out. Like now's when he's supposed to show me what your top level is, you know, and be like if he was really as good as people thought, he'd be doing what Wiggly is now. And then all of a sudden they'd actually have one of the best teams in the league.
You know how we, diagnosed the Wiggly problem as him not having a voice and him getting kind of pushed around by Darshan, and that's why he didn't look that great in spring? I think Contract is definitely having a problem similar to that on Golden Guardians. He's playing with players like Haunter, players like Froggen, extremely strong-headed players with big voices. I have to imagine he's getting drowned out somewhat in his voice, so this probably isn't the best of Contracts that we're seeing.
He is, but that's also, some of that's on the coach, in my opinion. Like, the coach has to find a way to solve that problem or to empower him more, because I do really think, like, GGS is an obvious example of a team where if the jungler was a bit better, I think the team would do a lot better. Like, as you've seen, they get winning lanes. They get because they have unique picks, they can get the champions they need. There's no problem setting up a game, but they lose way too many games in light of the team that they were supposed to be after spring. Like right now, I wouldn't pick them to beat any top team. If you just look at the form that they're in at the moment, they have no business being like. That's why I'm interested to see what this bot lane gamble will do, because it only has to improve a little bit and be a little bit more of a threat, and it could be a much better team.
Do you think the bot lane oriented version of Golden Guardians has a chance at CLG, TSM, C9?
Why do they have to be? Wait a minute. Why do we have to go from don't ever play around the bot lane to we only play around the bot lane? Now you don't have to do that. That's an extreme version, isn't it?
Do you think GGS has a better shot at beating any of the top teams with FBI Huhi than Deathly Ole?
Like I say, I think it depends on the early discussion. Like, will it affect Froggen's game? If Froggen's game is the same, they could be better. If it fucks it up, it probably ruins the whole thing.
Of course it's going to affect this game. You don't think it's going to affect... What? You saw how much they ganked bot side compared to they ever did before.
Yeah, that was one game, and they were playing against Echo Fox. Do you know who plays in the bot lane for Echo Fox? It ain't a fucking all-star cast, is it? Like, if I'm going to put a new bot lane, and why not give them a chance in a game like that?
Okay.
I don't think they're going to do that when they play against, like, Team Liquid, mate.
All right.
I don't think they're going to be going bot lane all the time in that game, you know?
I think Ole and Deathly were perfect AD carry support for Froggen. Not perfect as in, like, they're, like, I think perfect in terms of playstyles meshing. I think Ole Deathly were one of the best bot lanes for Froggen to have.
I mean, you just mean in terms of style. Like,
Yeah,
I
in
don't
terms of
consider
style.
an AD carry that doesn't kill people, doesn't win lane, doesn't win team fights like a good AD carry for anyone to play with. But hey, maybe that's just me.
Definitely has good
I'm a
laning.
hater, aren't I?
Definitely has
Yeah,
good
but-
laning and bad team fight. His laning stats are good. Definitely Ole consistently have good laning stats. They
Yeah,
just
his
have
laning. So wait a second. Let me just check out. Clear this way. Wait a second. So his laning stats are good, Loco, when he plays with Tom Kench, not a support player. He plays with Tom Kench. He plays with Tom Kench, and then his carries on his team are the top and mid, who are ganked all day long. Can't imagine why those laning stats would be really good in a team that's losing.
if you could just have plus stats by picking Tom Kench plus AD carry, then people would do that all the time. Like you can't. Like Deathly and Ole are good at laning.
No. You did not make the. I just literally told
What?
you something, and you ignored what I said.
Okay, what did you say?
You said if you could just have good laning stats just by having Tom Kench in lane. No, and having your star players be solo laners who people want to gank.
I'm sure people try. Like we can look at like the gank amount of gank Deathly and Ole have received compared to other bot lanes. Like that's not a stat I know off the top of my head, but a stat I know off the top of my head is Deathly and Ole have good laning stats. They consistently have had good laning stats. Like they're not bad laners. Like the problem comes in team fights. The problem comes in flexibility. Where Ole and Deathly lack isn't laning. It's their flexibility in terms of picks, especially for Ole. And for Deathly, it's when it gets to the team fight. That's where he suffers a lot. But I think it's unfair to Deathly and Ole to tell me that they have bad laning because straight up they don't.
I mean, I notice you're doing that thing where they can only have good or bad laning. Like there's a whole spectrum between, you know.
On
best,
average,
they were
yeah,
average.
on
Yeah,
average,
best they were average.
on average, they had better than average laning stats. Like if you look at their end of the season stats, like they have good laning stats.
Brilliant, great. Well, that's a dog shit conversation topic. So do you want to keep going through over that 700 times, or should we talk about something else now?
Sure, we can talk about something else, but I think it's unfair for you to say they have bad laning stats.
Right, I'll leave it to the viewers. Did I ever say Deathly and Ole have bad laning
Or
stats? If I
bad
ever said
laning,
that
they're bad in lane, they're bad in lane.
No, that's not what I said. If I ever said that, then Loco wins. If I didn't, maybe we've wasted already far too much time on an absolutely worthless topic. So, next question. This is the next question. Will Clutch Gaming actually be better in the second half of the split? Because they've already had some nice wins. They haven't been terrible. I know the record isn't that great, but it's not that bad so far.
Dude, Clutch is in like, I don't give a fuck mode. Like, they're playing Syndra Graves versus LeBlanc J4. Like, why the fuck are you playing Syndra Graves? Like, did you travel back in time? Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't understand this team. Like, they were up gold versus CLG with Sasona Tom Kench, and like they didn't know how to end the game. Like, and also they've been starting to cut people. They cut their head coach. They cut McCracks, and they picked up Thinkcard. They cut their like social media manager / manager Sandra. Like, they're just cutting people, and like Hui playing Tap Casio, getting dove over and over again. Like, this team isn't. They're in a transitional period to turn into Dignitas. I don't think they're just trying to like. They're not trying to win games. They're trying to figure out like who's the best for their team and like who they're gonna carry over to next year. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, but the problem is, like, to be fair, who he was doing that in the fucking games they were winning. He was playing the exact same champions, so I don't think that's changed as much. I agree, he's definitely not been as good as he was the first few weeks. But listen, mate, if I was Clutch Gaming, I know they're trying to sell anyway, I would scrap the majority of this lineup. And I have to say, your boy DeMonte, there's nothing to say, right? There's nothing particularly good. It's just okay at best.
I think the only salvageable piece is their bot lane.
Well, especially when you consider the cost,
Yeah.
like someone like Hooney is. Like, unless Hooney's going to take a massive pay cut, I would never gamble on this guy at this point in time. Like, here's the thing. I guarantee he'll get some team too. Who knows? Maybe he'll even go to China and play a year and get a mega bucks there. But if I'm an LCS team, come on, guys, you've been fooled before. Don't fucking pick this guy up. Like, you know he has to have one of the biggest salaries, but he isn't that sort of player at the moment. Like, he can't reliably carry the game in the way that sort of contract demands he should.
Yeah,
it's not reasonable.
Other than Cody Sun and Vulcan, I don't think there's any salvageable piece to the roster.
I think Cody Sun is actually... I'm glad he came into this team because obviously the team itself is never going to be like a fucking LCS winner, but I think he's managed to resurrect his career. He looks decent. Even in terms of his champion pool, he's actually been experimenting a little bit, playing some other shit. It seems to me like he's one of the only players in the team where there's a good reason for him to be motivated and trying and thinking he can do well. He should be an LCS player next season, but for someone else, someone good.
What do you mean? I think he'll be fine on Clutch or Dignitas, whatever they turn into.
Yeah, but that depends if they're actually willing to spend money and buy good players, though.
And I don't know what the future is for majority LCS teams. Like I think if I was in charge of an LCS team next year, I would invest into cheap players that have high upside and that are on the younger side. Like when...
Basically what I said before, you go out there and you scout the European player and you just give him his first contract. So for him, it'll be a big contract. For you, it'll be a reasonable one, actually. Your gamble will be worth it. Because listen, I don't mind signing a player who might fail as long as I signed him for, like 150k. That's pretty reasonable gamble. And then if he becomes good, I maybe even get 1 year. I get basically the equivalent of what the Golden State Warriors had. I get like a year or so of him being way better than he should be for the salary I have. Now it works out. So if I'm at a lot of these teams, that's what I'd be doing, as opposed to... I mean, these teams, Clutch, Echo, Fox, Flight, they're just recycling the same names.
I mean, what is it? When you look at where TL is at and where TL is going to be next year also, I just don't think any team can reasonably get first. And to get a team that contests with TL, you would have to spend even more than they're spending to get a team that can actually contest.
You're right, because the thing is, you'd have to pay Froggen whatever he wanted to join Cloud9. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, I don't think it's possible for a team to challenge like TL at the moment and the top teams, especially the newer teams. So I think it's very important to read like kind of the waves of LCS. And right now, I think it's not a good period for people to spend a lot. I think it's a good period for people to invest into young talent and hope they hit. And once you have those young talent built up, and then you start challenging the top teams.
Did you see, I forget where I read this, but someone made like a whole list of all the players that had been like confirmed officially or unofficially that Cloud9 had tried to get when they knew they were going to lose Jensen?
Yeah.
Dude, you know how many players he was going for? Like, Jack, I think as far as I saw it, he was also trying to get like fucking Kuro. He was trying to get a whole bunch of players. Like, I think he was also going after some other EU players. Like actually, of them all, I have to say, sadly, Nisqy was like the least hype name. And the rest of them were actually all fucking players that like for example, say what you like. I know idiots in the West are going to be like, Kuro, isn't he shit? It's like, he's a very good player, mate. I'd love to have him on I think he'd even fit perfectly a team like Cloud9. Their mentality, the sort of court treatment, that he'd be a dream player to have play for you. And he's a very good individual player. So it could have been a different alternate universe where C9 might have an even more beefed up roster, mate.
Why do you not like Nisqy? I think I actually didn't like Nisqy that much. I thought Nisqy's been a really decent fit for C9 in terms of culture and in terms of play. Like, I don't think they hit it out of the park. I don't think it's like Jensen level where it's like, holy fuck, this is a generational level talent on your team. But Nisqy is like still very serviceable, and he's still...
Do you think you win LCS with players like Nisqy? I don't.
Do you think C9's in a position where they're winning LCS? I don't think...
If Licorice had continued the form he had last year, I think they should have been the best team in the LCS. Or them and Team Liquid would be head and head, you know. Like, I thought they had a chance to do it. They had the team for it.
Licorice, really important. I think, like, the two things that are really important for C9 is, like, Licorice, Jazo, and Spenskaren, or all three are on an upswing. And then Sneaky is, like, neutral to on a downswing. So, yes, like, mid laner maybe could have pushed them over the edge, but... when they're losing Jensen to TL, is there like a mid laner they could have gotten that pushed them over? I really don't think Froggen fit, if that's the first one that comes to mind. Kuro, also really hard to tell how Korean imports would do in NA. I guess having Reaper, like, maybe it would have been something good, but they would have needed like a knockout like mid laner. So like people are mentioning Crown, like no one knew Crown was going to be good. Don't fucking tell me Crown.
No. I mean, listen, no one was going to pick up Froggen either in that position for Cloud9. So those moves would never happen anyway. Like, if he means, like, right now, listen, I'd also love to see fucking this Crown on Cloud9. I think that'd be pretty banging too.
Yeah, it would be, like, the people that are mentioning, I think that have realistic, like, chances would have been like Power Beeble, maybe Nuke Duck, like these like upper tier, sure. Not quite at the top.
Oh, mate, yeah. Nuke Duck would be, that actually might be the dream player, because first of all, he does have a carry mentality, but secondly, he has a massive champion pool every single season of his career. Like, I think Reaper would fucking love that guy.
But
because that's the problem. Like, I don't know why you say it. I don't know why you don't like Nisqy. What? Because I don't think he can be a champion of an entire league. Like, I don't really know if that's hating personally. It's not just being reasonable. Like, what has he done that suggests he's going to be some standout mid laner? Not that much, in my opinion. Like, remember, there's not supposed to be some future team for Nisqy. This is it, Loco. This is the best team he's ever played for, where he's played with a whole bunch of all LCS pros, players who've been MVP level players who've gone deep in worlds, who've had experience. Like, this is where, if he's ever going to be a really good player, he's supposed to do it now. Like, what are we waiting for? He's a good player, but the point is, I mean, I've made this point a million times in the past. You don't win the championship with like a subpar mid laner. Yeah. Like, you win the championship by having like the best mid laner.
Yeah, a mid is way too fucking important.
Yeah, so it's a tough one. Like, here's the difference. I'll give up having, depending on the meta, like for example, the reason why Sneaky's fine in Cloud9 is because it's not all about ADC right now, and he's absolutely fine playing as like not the main threat of the team. Same with Impact as top lane. He'll always be great in metas where you don't need the top lane to be carry. But if say the game now, I mean, it isn't, but let's say the game somehow bizarrely was only carried through top lane, like top lane's the most important lane, I wouldn't want Impact at that point in time. In the same way as I personally don't think Nisqy's the right play if Cloud9 wants to win LCS. To be fair, when I saw that thing where like it was how much they paid versus how much their wins they did, that Travis did, looks like they've got a very good deal, bearing in mind how good their team is. So I think that's all fine. Business-wise, looks like they're killing it. But I am kind of skeptical that, unfortunately, they have the team that's actually going to be... Like, I don't think they're going to make a dynasty out of this lineup. It can probably contend every split, but I wouldn't pick it to win, sadly. Even though I think it should. But then again, some of that has to go on Reaper as well.
Well, it is what it is. I mean, okay. What's your, like, biggest, like, knock against Nisqy? I'm really curious, like, why, like, you keep suggesting stuff like Frog into C9, or like, oh, they should have gotten someone else, they could have contended. Like, what's your biggest knock against Nisqy? Like, Nisqy isn't this, so that's why C9's not competing.
Right. Everything Duke said there, I could have already predicted it all, mate. I would have told you exactly. I bet, you know what? I bet he has a really great attitude. I bet he's willing to self-sacrifice, I bet he's willing to have people play away from him in the game, and he's willing to pick what the coaches say. Yeah, you know what? Those are all signs, actually, of not the best player. The best players don't do that. Like, the best players start at the opposite extreme, and you work them back. You figure out, listen, you can't carry every game. So in this type of a game, give it up a little bit. But yeah, keep doing it most of the time. Like, the problem, I've always made this point, and as far as I know, find me a coach who disagrees, who isn't called Weldon Green and trying to sell you a fucking motivational 12-step course to how to become fucking, I don't know, CLG Jesus or something. But find most coaches, I think they would agree with me. I'd way rather have a super skilled player who has like a mentality that's very selfish and try and convince him to become more reasonable than have a player playing like a carry role who's like a really cool guy, and he maybe even has some skills, but you're trying to build up his like killer instinct and be like, no, like, I have more games where you're a bit more selfish. I think it's way harder to do the second than it is to do the first one, because the first one, the guy's got the game already. I'm just like tuning his personality basically. The other guy, I'm tuning his personality as well, but like, I don't even know if he's got the game, because if he's never tried that mentality, it's a theory that Veteran actually has about League that I kind of agree with. The best players should actually be trying to push their limits as much as they can, because then they know how good they can be. Now, once you push your limits in practice, hopefully, you realize, like for example, I think Cap scores too far with how much he pushes it in official games. I think in my world, I would want him to be like 10% less aggressive, and I think that would make him a more consistent player and he'd just dominate everyone. But I can't fuck with him, because what if he keep levels up again next year and he's even better and he is the fucking Faker of the West? Because that's kind of like what Faker did. Like, half the shit he used to do in his solo plays were like, that is a bad move if you're not Faker. Like, he just knew he could pull it off. So my problem with Nisqy is I don't see that angle. Like, I feel like he is just basically, I think he's like the European pole belter, mate.
So
there you go. He's a European pole vaulter.
So your thing has way more to do with his mindset than skill level. Like he doesn't have like the mindset. Like he.
I think in the game you just see. Like I think it's very convenient that he plays for Cloud9, because I think if he didn't play for Cloud9, he would play very similarly to how he does now, and you would find out that in the same way as you love to criticize, like for example, Froggen or Forgiven, and go, look, they're being selfish. It's like, look at their teammates. Why would they be unselfish? In vice versa,
we don't have to bullshit. We don't have to bullshit. Like Froggen and Forgiven aren't selfish because they have shitty teammates. Even with good teammates, they would still attribute selfish behavior. Vice versa, Bjergsen and Nisqy, these like more team play oriented player, even when they have shitty teammates, like they will be more team oriented. That's just like core to the person they are and the player they are.
Yeah, to some degree. But the point is, it's never as extreme as fans say anyway. Like, mate, just go look at any of the teams these guys were successful on, and those teams fit them very well, and it worked that it was that way, you know. Like, that was just the way you want it. So one of the problems I think they have in the team in general in C9 is they've got way too many nice guys and not enough fucking killers. Where are all the killers?
I would say
where are they?
The biggest personalities on C9 are at the ownership and a coaching level.
Because I really do think, like, from watching a lot of different team sports, like, I totally get why coaches preach team first. Because, like I say, most players who are skilled tend to be a little bit selfish by default, especially if you're playing a game like League of Legends. You literally sometimes practice in solo queue where you have no real teammates. It's just about whether you win the game. The problem is that works to a certain level. Like, I'll give you a great example. Go back in the NBA for the last few seasons, and every season, Loco, you get a team that goes deep in the playoffs who's really deep as a team. They have loads of good... Like, the Raptors before Kawhi used to be like this. They never had a guy who was the top 5 player, but the team was really deep. They had good coaching, played together, and they would make it, like, you know, conference finals, conference semifinals, but you knew they were never going to win the game, because if it was ever, like, a crucial game 4, whoever wins this overtime session wins the game, that's when the fucking superstar player takes over. That's when they win the game for you. That's when LeBron wins the game for you. Like, the difference is the Bucks might have been able to do it this season because they had that Giannis guy who was a pretty studly player. You know, like, in my opinion, at the top level of any team sport, you have to have one of those players, which is why if you look at most team sports, they almost go too far and make the whole thing about, like, I'll blow my whole team up just to get that guy. Like, they probably go too far the other direction because they're all gambling to be number 1. No one's gambling to be number 4, if you know what I mean. You disagree?
No, I agree on, like, the base premise.
Like, put it this way. I'll give you a great example of a comment, and all of your fans can go, Thorin doesn't know anything. And they won't know how many people behind the scenes would agree with me.
What?
You know what, Morco? I think pretty much every year those two teams existed with those cores. I actually believe Rock's Tigers was a better League of Legends team than SK Telecom. The difference is, if you put them into the big playoff game, the SK Telecom would have those killers that take over the game. The Rock's Tigers guys, they were godlike in regular splits. They were so good, it was unbelievable. But if you put them in the big pressure game, the only real player they had who was in a carry role who could carry was Smeb. Yeah. That was it. And unfortunately, as a team, they would always have weakness from Kuro.
Kuro could never overcome Faker. Kuro could never overcome Faker,
It was like, they still could have done it, and they were so close that many times, but there's a reason why playing with Faker's pretty fucking awesome, isn't it? Like, he really can do shit no one else can do in a playoff. It's a bit of an abstract topic. And by the way, I don't blame teams. You still have to just pick the players. But I do think that's the principle of how the game works. And until I see otherwise, it's just the way I think, mate.
Oh. And not everyone can get those players, but yeah.
No, it's very hard, of course.
And even those players, like, you need, like, the absolute best version of those players. Like, there is a Jensen, and then there is, like, a Jensen Light, and a lot of times it's not good to have the Jensen Light. You rather have the Nisqy, and yeah, I mean, that's, I think, where majority of our arguments are taken. Where, I mean, Froggen being a championship level player, like, how much it takes to build. I think there is a world where you can win a championship with Froggen, and then I think where you and I would differ is how many pieces do you need to put around Froggen, and like.
Of course. No, I would always tell you, by the way, people like Froggen and Forgiven and Dardoch and the other people who are a little bit more tricky, Swaz, they definitely need a certain type of teammate, and it's a lot more strict as opposed to some other people who might be able to have many types of teammates. Right? Like, there's a reason why you can put Aframu, Mithy, these players can be on seemingly with any teammates and they find a way to work. Like, I agree, it's a lot more defined for those players, but the difference is, and this is why I think you even said you could win with Froggen, is if you did have those exact right teammates, well, he's already got his game exactly where he wants it to be, so he would already be ready to go, you know.
Yeah, so I mean, they have to find the right GM, right coach, and they have to have access to those players. Like for example, maybe Froggen can win with there's 10 teammates, 10 players in the world. If you make them Froggen's teammates, like Froggen can win a championship. For better players, for let's say for like Bjerg or Double, there's like 100 or 200 players that you can put with them, and any combination like they could win with.
I mean, not working out too well for Bjergsen. I mean, he's had about 100 teammates in the last 2 seasons, mate. So he's only made one final, but whatever. We'll put that to one side for a moment, shall we? Here's the thing, though. I actually do think, in general, this is a problem Cloud9, the org, has had, which is, dude, the amount of star players Cloud9 has let leave their org in a bunch of different games is unbelievable. So I actually think they've gone too far trying to get nice guys, because in all their games they've done the same thing.
I think they're business savvy. I think you don't think that's business. I think every time
a little birdie told me they wanted Jensen out. Oh, you didn't like that one, did you? When I just dropped that on you.
What?
You didn't like that one. Oh, you didn't.
Okay, so when they let
you think that was the right move?
No.
You think it was correct for them to let Jensen leave?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying anytime they let go of a big player or a big player has left them, did C9 make money in the process?
Oh, of course. But the point is,
so that's them business savvy. That's not them like
Loco,
losing players.
This isn't a business.
I think a lot of esports owners and investors would beg to differ with you.
Oh, go on then. Tell me how much money he's making.
I have no idea, but what if he
probably nothing? I would guess he's losing money. I would guess the Cloud9 org either loses money or makes a tiny profit.
And they can do that by selling off these big players. When they sell off players like Stewie, when they sell off players like Jensen, both to the same team, Team Liquid, like that's where they're making their money back now.
Yeah, and here's the problem. When you sell those players, what did those 2 players go and do?
Win championships.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what you gave up. You wanted to have a business, right? Steve doesn't want a business. Steve's business is going to be in 10 years when his org's worth $3 billion, mate. That's when he'll be running it as a business. Right now, he's trying to win championships so that every time he goes to sponsors, his fucking deck's unreal, mate. His deck says like champion NA, world champion, best team. Cloud9 has to go and go, we have a lot of good second place teams, and we're the nice guys. It's like, good luck. Like, listen, you might still kill it in business, but like, I think, in my opinion, you have to be honest. Either you're running the team to be very fiscally responsible, and we're just going to make good gambles here, or you're running it to be the best. I respect the Chinese teams that go all out and spend all the fucking money, or Team Liquid when everyone's laughing at them. Look how much money they spent. They won the championship, dickhead. You go and spend that money and win the championship. I don't think most of you'd manage it if you tried it. It's hard to do that, you know. It's very hard to do basically the Lakers approach of trying to buy all the big names and win the championship. That's not easy. People think it is. Plenty of super teams fail.
Yeah, but yes, like I think it's fair to criticize C9 for not having championship aspiration, and also when you win, I think once you also won, it's different. Like for teams like C9 that already had championship aspirations and their brand identity isn't core to winning. Like for TSM, it's completely different. Like TSM's brand identity lives and dies with them winning. Like when TSM doesn't win, like their fans are fucking angry. But for C9, like they're getting by and they're making do, and their brand identity still stands without winning.
Okay, that's just not helping them in the fucking LCS standards. Man.
Sure, it's not, but that's like it's different philosophies on how to run teams, and like yes.
Well, you know what? Here's what can happen. When C9 doesn't win LCS, when they lose in the semi-finals again this split, what you can do is all the teammates can give Nisqy a really good hug and go, oh, I'm so glad to lose with you instead of winning with that asshole Jensen who's about to win another championship. And then Jack can pull out a big wad of $10,000 bills and go, so glad to have you with me, rather than another championship. And then all the fans can go, well, we tried. We're just C9 players. Maybe Sneaky will talk about his butthole. And then you can all literally just go to bed happy. Meanwhile, me and all the arseholes in Team Liquid, G2, we'll just go fuck the prom queen and be the winners of the whole motherfucking league. And you can all look back and go, look how materialistic they are. And we'll go exactly motherfucker. Make it rain, Jack.
I think C9, no, I think C9's willing to spend money if they think it makes sense. Like they were willing to put a bid in for caps. Like when they think it makes sense, I think they're willing to spend the money. But when it doesn't make sense, like they don't spend the money.
Well, let me know when they spend some money, because at the moment, they ain't spending dick, mate. They're just min-maxing it. And listen, it's like I said before, if you were, I'll give you an example of it. If you were CLG and you had their lineup, I'd go, you fucking killed it on the transfer market. How did you do it? Like, just stick with this. Even if you come third, that's still really good for you. The problem I can say is, if you're Cloud9, you still have the clout of like you used to be a championship org. You still got some very good players that you could attract other pieces with as well. You've got a coach that people probably want to play for. They respect him. He's won coach of the split. Like, the problem is if you wait a couple of years before you make the big signing, you'll have a team that's not that good anymore. As you're seeing with TSM and CLG and how their lineups dropped off after the years and they had tough times and they held on to players for too long. Like, I'm just not a fan of it overall. So whatever.
C9 is the best bang for buck team. Do you remember when Travis got a hold of all the salaries and then he divided by wins, right? So
because by the way, the key thing there was even though TSM was very high, that's also because Bjergsen signed his contract ages ago. So TSM should be higher. They're sort of half cheating the system. C9s, they've got a lot of like newer players. Like they just did it legit. That was just business.
Yeah, they're the best bang for buck team. Like, and that's what it is. And when they see a championship route, I'm sure Jack will take it. It's not that C9 doesn't have the capital. He probably felt in this environment with what the fuck TL is doing, it's probably not possible.
I predict they won't. And I can just tell you that because I know a lot more about their CSGO team, homie.
You think them making a bid for Caps isn't that?
Anyone can make a bid, mate. I noticed that bid wasn't accepted. I noticed Caps himself has never ever mentioned anywhere. Oh, and I was really thinking about going Cloud9. He's never mentioned dick about it. No one even knew about it except for, as far as I know, Cloud9 themselves leaking it just to make people not upset that they end up with Nisqy instead of Jensen. And then Jensen's literally now fucking moonwalking across stages, winning trophies. Like, what else are you going to say in that scenario? So I believe he made a bid. Whether or not it was a reasonable bid, whether he went all out, whether he made a good package, I'm more skeptical of that side of it personally. I'd like to know. I'd love to know. Like here's a great way if you Jack, you could be baller. You could say, I actually made a higher bid for Caps than G2 did. There you go. That'd be a pretty sick comment to make, right? So all I'm saying is, I'm calling you bluff, homie.
And
Go ahead, say it.
That just shits on Nisqy. And like as an owner, like why would you talk about money and like bidding like that? I don't think that's...
No, exactly. Just sit back with a massive smile on your face and a fucking silver medal and get ready to put it around all your players' necks and just be a good guy. Don't upset anyone. It's better to be a nice guy, right? You know what? When I'm dead, Loco, is when everyone will say I was a nice guy and all the stories will come out about the shit I did behind the scenes and people will go, oh, we miss him. And you know what? I'll be dead. I won't give a fuck. I won't be in this dimension, this universe, whatever. Maybe I'll have actually just, realized I was God at that point in time, just woken up like, oh, it was all a game after all. What a hilarious character I was playing. Whatever will be happening is I won't be bothered about it. So I'm not worried about being thought of nice now. Y'all can worry about that. Y'all can keep trying to trick people into thinking you're nicer than you are. I'll just take all the money, the fame, and the success. You can keep all the rest because it's all has zero value. You can't trade in being nice for some pussy. There's no deal like that in the universe, mate. In fact, it's the most flawed trade attempt anyone's ever attempted, and yet a lot of Western males right now are trying to do it all the time. People don't respect that. You know what, people... I tell you who the nice guy is. This is why I'm not a fan of Cloud9 as the current team in League of Legends. A nice guy is the guy who, if you're going out for a drink, you don't ask him first. You make sure you ask your friend who you really like or your really funny friend. But when you've got a crew and you've got 3 or 4 people, you chuck the nice guy in there just to round up the crowd. He's not going to bother us too much. He's going to follow where we go. He's not going to be making noise. So yeah, you add him at the end. I wouldn't want to make my whole team out of those guys. I wouldn't want my owner to be that guy. What I like about Steve is he is so obviously one-track minded as to what he cares about that you know exactly where you stand with him from the very beginning. Like I remember years ago, a player, this is years ago, so no one will know who it is. A player who played for him once told me, all he cares about is money. And I went, good. Then you should have known where you stood, you dumb fuck. Why? What were you wanting? A hug and a fucking kiss on the cheek? What is this bullshit? You're a pro player. It's not your dad. Who are you talking about? Enough said.
Any teams that we didn't hit on that we need to hit on? Optic.
We mainly left all about. Let's talk about Optic then. What do you think about that? Because obviously, listen, they were never going to maintain the run they had at the beginning where they were like 4-0, but they're still doing pretty well overall. What do you think?
My respect for Zabutin grows every day whenever I think about Optic.
He's doing a good job, isn't he?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. He also, even with the team last year, he did get them in the shape by the end of the split. Like, it seems like a guy where if you give him the resources, he's clearly... Like, the problem in the LCS is people can't... It's the same as before when you were like, so why don't you like Nisqy? It's like, I've never said anything bad about Nisqy. It's like, I think he's like the 4th best mid laner or something. That seems fine to me. Like, everyone has to be so extreme. So you're either the best coach or you're a pure trash can. If I had to guess, like, there's 10 coaches in LCS. If I had to guess... Probably 5 or 6 of them are identical level. It just depends what team they have as to whether they're doing well right now. If I had to guess, I'd probably say Zabutin's slightly above average coach based on the lineups I've seen him work with. It seems like he's doing a good job. Seems like he knows what he wants from his team. Gradually, they seem to improve. Seems like a decent coach to me.
I mean,
and Crown is a motherfucking stud in both senses.
Oh my god, why do you have a hard on for Crown? It's so fucking weird. It's the one of the
What's weird about that?
Like, okay, you having hard on for players and their play style is like normal, but like you literally have a hard on for like how he looks, and like you talk about how good looking he is on every single episode.
I don't have any sort of problem with that.
It's just I've never seen you. Like, if you're someone like that talks about players being good looking all the time, then it would make sense. But it's just this one specific player.
No. Well, here's the thing. It is true. Like, for example, it's actually famous that I actually never referenced that about Flame, even though he's very famous. He's a very good looking person. A lot of girls like him. No, but the reason why I mentioned it for Crown is because I actually feel like he himself doesn't get it. Because I don't know how this guy, like, dude, one of the craziest things to me is, first of all, because he's been such a nerd, he's quite an antisocial person. I don't know how. If I looked like him, I'd just go, why don't I apply a little bit of the knowledge I learned playing games to learning fucking women, and all of a sudden I'd be killing it. Secondly, if you look at him as a player, dude, one of the biggest mysteries ever will be whatever happened to that guy like a year ago, or a year and a half ago, when he just dropped off the physics. Because his mechanics, you see it now, they're unbelievable. How did he ever let himself get convinced he was a player?
Depressed. He said he was depressed and he wasn't getting, like, he was coming to having post-world blues where he accomplished, you know, people have that, like, you have this like big goal that you're like dying to do, and then you accomplish your goal and then you feel empty inside. That's kind of what Crown talked about.
Problem with that is, though, that is also a young person's flaw, to be fair. Because I'll give you an example. I don't know if I've ever told you this story before, but the moment I actually stopped ever being an actual fan of anyone, like, as in, like, when I say I'm a fan, what I really mean is I'm an admirer of this person's play, right? So, for example, I'm not exaggerating. If, like, I'll give you an example. I've always been a very long-time admirer of Roger Federer in tennis, right? But he doesn't have to win the game for me to be happy. Some of his losses that were amazing matches are some of my favorite matches ever to watch. I just like watching him play, win or lose. It's about his skills. But what changed my mind in that sense was years and years ago, when I was watching the NBA, because I was a big fan of Kobe Bryant, I used to watch the Lakers a lot, right? And when they finally got a good team, if you remember, the first year in 2008, they got to the finals and they lost to the Celtics, right? And the next year, obviously, when I watched the finals there, I was like, oh, they fucking lost. That's bullshit, man. Like, oh, they were so close. Like, what could have gone differently? Will they ever get back there again? Maybe he'll never win again. And because they won the next 2 years, well, when they won the next year, I remember the moment they won the game and the confetti fell. And I actually had a realization. I just looked around and I went, this is exactly the same as last year when they lost. Like, life didn't change at all. Like, all that happened was on the screen, it just says that they have a higher score than the other team. That's it. Nothing else changed. My favorite player still tried to play the best game. His team tried the best they could to win. The opponent tried their best to beat them. When the game ended, nothing about my life changed. Like, this is ridiculous. This is all just vicarious living. Like, my life actually is not in any way connected to these. So personally, I don't actually give a fuck about being a fan of certain people in that sense. I just like watching them play if they're sick players.
Really?
Win or lose.
When TSM wins, I become happier. And when TSM loses, I become sadder.
I think you need more going on in your life, mate, if your happiness is dictated by whether fucking Reginald's team fucks up the finals or wins the finals. Like, I think you need more going on in your life that makes you seriously happy. You know, I don't know where you're at in your life at the moment. You know, you're having troubles at home, son. What's going on here? Like, also, if you're just waiting for TSM to win to be happy, fucking hell, I'd get a load of antidepressants in now, mate. So it's not going to be good for you for a while.
Yeah, life's not good for me right now.
If you're relying on Sven to win the fucking LCS, I don't know about that, homie. I'd go for some second or third plans for that one. There's got to be some other options here, Loco.
I'm going through a heartbreak. TSM isn't doing that well. Life isn't that great.
Like, what people don't realize is I kind of troll with my humor either way. Like, half the time when I wreck people for being bad, they are bad players, but I don't hate them or anything. And similarly, most of the time when I talk shit when the teams that I'm supposed to like win, I'm not really that over the moon. I just think it's funny to talk shit to the fans that lost because they don't mind fucking doing it to me. So, yeah, as you know my principle, whatever happens to me, I'm like the Old Testament God. Whatever you do to me, I will do tenfold to you and your kin. to the end of the 7th generation. Like, that's just the way I roll.
You're just a teenager that never grew up, more like...
I am in some ways. I am. I used to literally, I won't give you too much insight in this. I keep my private life private. But I'll tell you one detail about me as we start to end this episode. And it'll make a lot of it make sense. Like, you know, when you're a kid, people encourage you and they say, like, you could do anything. You could be anything. You know, believe it. Right? But you know then, when you get a bit older, they start to go like, well, you know, like, be reasonable. Like, no, you're not literally the best. Like, we were just saying that. When they started to say that to me, in my mind, I just thought, they're wrong. And then I just kept thinking it my whole life.
How's it worked out for you?
Fucking awesome. Are you kidding me? I literally got a joke hobby I was doing for the summer while I was waiting to go to university and turned it into a 20-year career where I'm at the top of my field making fucking mad money.
What, arguing with people online?
Mate, that's a fucking amazing. If you get paid what I do to do that, you wouldn't turn your nose about that, I guarantee you, son.
Oh, I also have a small announcement.
Oh, here we go.
So,
come on.
I won't be doing interviews in the future. I wanted to focus more on streaming, like Listen Loco, and like content as is gonna still stay. Probably do more and probably more stuff on my YouTube, but I'm not gonna be doing interviews. So yeah, I wanted to let the Listen Loco people know first.
Fair enough.
I'll try to be more regular with my streaming and just because it's
alright. We'll just have the players on this show instead. Fuck them.
Let's do it.
It's actually better, to be fair. Like, you can have way better conversations here, you know, when you've got time to dig into stuff and you can bring up sorts of topics. It's a lot harder in an interview to get stuff out of them, right?
Yeah, and also it's just doing interviews take up so much of my time where I don't have weekends. So maybe in the future, but as of now, no interviews. Anything else?
All right. Luckily, there's still one guy out there in the scene who will do his fucking 200th Reckless interview, his 997th Doublelift interview, his 17th Bjergsen interview. There's still that guy out in the scene, so he'll take care of that for you, mate. Don't worry. Very generic, you know, ABC interviews. They'll still be out there. I want to tell you guys, you fans out there, so don't get disheartened. It's still okay. Loco was still leveling up anyway. Maybe one time he comes back to it and he gets better.
Anything else you want to end on other than being mean to Travis?
I think we've checked it all off. Like, TSM overrated, probably going to be shit. Cloud9, bunch of pussies. Show me the fucking receipts. What else? Crown, holy shit, so good looking. Keep wearing that little cross earring. Really works for me. Kind of has that anime vibe where you feel like a killer. Who else? Meteor should be on TSM. I think we covered that one. Froggen, probably a lot better than everyone gives him credit for because everyone's not me. Weldon gets some credit for now. Still reserve the right to make fun of him at all opportunities for stuff not to do with his coaching. I think that's about it, right? I think we've covered everything. Hooney, a $1 million waste of time, zero trick player. There we go.
Damn, every week it's the same shit over and over again.
Exactly. It's all like a sitcom. It's like Seinfeld, you know. We hit the same beats every time. We're bringing it's like everyone comes in, oh, it's wacky old Froggen again. Haha, what's he playing this week, guys? Like, exactly. Someone, if they're out there, if anyone out there has talent who's a video editor, make like an intro. And you can listen, it doesn't have to be Seinfeld. Pick any sitcom intro. But I want one of those classic American sitcom intros where, you know, they're even turning to the camera. And Mitch Ryder's playing Locodoco in this episode. I want one of those and just put our heads on it. And then all the guests, put us the other people on the show, all the people we'd never stop talking about, like Bjergsen, fucking Dardock, like put all of those motherfuckers, Reapered, as the other face and send me it on Twitter. And I guarantee I'll retweet it if it's good.
All right.
As long as it's good, I'll retweet it.
You're too much sometimes. But all right, let's end the show. I'll talk to you later, Duncan.
All right, peace.
All right. Thank you to our gold Patreons, Buttpounder420, Tobias Bernasconi, and Icelandic C9 Fan. Without you guys, the show wouldn't be possible. I love you all, and all the silver, bronze, iron Patreon supporters. Like, genuinely, Patreon is one of the best way to support Listen Loco. The profits get shared with me and Duncan, and yeah, I mean, without you guys, like, this shit is impossible. So thank you so much for making it all happen.